want to start by, making everybody think about, what's your 5 and 10-year goals in this business, and let's take those and work backwards. I'll put my headset on here. And I want to say that, and I'm going to share my show notes with you, but I don't want to just go off of them and take myself off camera. But I am still fanatical. I'm still a fanatical raving fan of housing, and believe that, the quality of our lives start in our homes. And I think we lose focus on that when we look at numbers. Are people going to buy houses? They have a 3% rate. Are they going to buy with a 7% rate? When you look at it, can you guys hear me all right still?
Yeah.
Okay. When you look at it, does everybody feel that, housing is not optional, and that if we cut through the noise, that, if somebody wants to live in a different house, that they'll probably find a way to do that, and we are the conduit to helping that happen? Can I get a yay?
Yes.
Can I get a yay?
Agree.
Right.
Yes.
So, and I want to know if I was listening to the Tom Ferry podcast, and according to him, 17% of our GDP is all things housing. That doesn't seem like something that can be easily substituted for. And to my utter amazement, almost 5% of GDP is a direct result of the real estate transaction, which means, the insurance, the title, the real estate commission, the mover, the painter, everything that happens when a transaction occurs. And if we look at, how delicate the balance is for our economy, if the economy grows at 3% versus 1%, what's the difference in whether that's a good economy or a bad economy? What do you think? Is that massive? Is that a massive swing?
I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, if you go down by 0.3, it's major, and we're controlling. Housing is 17% of the economy, and the transaction is 5%. So, some evidence on where we are and where we're going to be is, Tom Ferry in his same podcast quoted that 27.2% of the transactions are predicted not to happen in 2023 versus what happened in 2021, which means 72.8% are still happening. If anybody watches like the RE/MAX National Housing Report, which is not local, but gives us a good bird's eye view of what's happening, sales are down 23.5% in units. Prices are still up 6.7%, September 22 over September 21. And an interesting phenomenon is happening where housing prices are sticky. Inventory is starting to build up, but people aren't so willing to cut prices. I don't know if you're seeing that in your local markets. Is anybody seeing, sellers cutting prices 5% or more to move the inventory, or are we seeing sellers being sticky?
I find it really difficult. We've done it. I find it really difficult. Yeah. We've reduced some prices on our listings, and but there's some people are just stubborn. They just think that we're still in that crazy market. Oh, well, it's going to sell. Don't worry, it's going to sell. It's hard to overcome some of their objections, but you have to keep trying. You have to kind of educate them a little bit more.
And I think sellers aren't seeing this as a desperation. I still think that there's a normal amount of buyers that are going to be entering the marketplace. I mean, a lot of buyers move their decisions up because interest rates were low, or maybe they were not thrilled with where they're living during the pandemic. But do you think some of the people that, lived their whole life in the city and moved out to the suburbs might be saying, hey, this isn't for me? And
Possible.
do you think that an interest rate is going to change somebody who's committed to a different lifestyle? I think it's going to be a transition. It's going to be a little bit less. It's going to be a different dialogue, a different conversation. But in the long term and even in the intermediate term, I think people are going to continue to make the decisions that suit their lifestyle. And I believe that a lot of the aging population that I spoke to personally, knocking on doors, and by the way, we're doing that again this weekend. If you signed up, don't forget. We knocked on a lot of doors, people 30, 40, 50 years in their house, living in larger homes, probably don't need to be there by every logical explanation, but they were there because they would say this one thing: if I sell, where am I going to go? There's nothing for sale. That was the comment that we're getting. Eventually, they're going to acquiesce to the fact that it's not in their best interest to stay in a house that doesn't suit their needs. And in certain cases, they're not going to be physically able to maintain these houses. So those things are going to move. And I don't think a whole lot of those moved during the pandemic. I think that segment of the population,
The 10-year sealed battery.
I think that segment,
So we're gonna have to
hold on.
swap that out again.
So this,
I think that segment of the population will have its day where they need to sell. And, those are, the normal buyers and sellers. They need a bigger house. They move their job. Another phenomenon. Does anybody else have another thought on why we think housing might transition in a positive way?
I have a client who's told me that they bought a house, and their job is they're coming back to the city, and he wants to put the house back on the market. And that could be a lot of people who overpaid for their houses. Now they want to get out. I don't know. That's just one particular person I spoke with.
And Eric, what do you think is happening to employers? Are they looking for employees to come back to work more, or are they, you think that they're letting people work at home more?
Oh, I'm not a social commentary. I have no idea, but I will tell you that people are more productive at home. And that scenario has been cited many times. But, when you're talking about this area, let's say somebody bought a house for $1 million, they get laid off and they go back to work and they're not making as much. They want to put the house on the market and get a house they can afford better. And if there's a loss, they'll take it now rather than down the road. You might lose another 10, 15, 20%. So I think that's the discussion people are talking about on the papers every Sunday morning. You hear the same exact thing. We're in the most popular business around. The government wants to shut us down. So we got to fight back like we always do. It's going to be, like you said, there are people entering the market constantly.
So, Eric, when you started out in real estate, you probably learned by being around other people in an office or having that proximity to people that kind of gives you things that you are now saying without thinking from that proximity. I can look back to when I was in college and I was writing mortgages. I had no training. You know how I learned? I sat in a room of people making calls, and I heard how other people handled situations, and that's how, that rubbed off on us. And I think a lot of companies are going to hybrid or getting people back into the office, and that's going to change where they live. Some may say, hey, this work at home is great. We're going to cut our office overhead, but office occupancy rates are going up, which seemingly means that companies are looking to bring people back to the office. I think the Hudson Yards just opened a 3 million square foot office building, the largest one in the city, and it's almost fully leased.
Yeah,
of
I was
us.
there this weekend. It's gigantic and it's already packed.
So those people are coming from somewhere, right, TJ?
They got to be because that building wasn't there a couple of years ago.
Yep. So those people who bought out in Western New Jersey that are going to need to be commuting to the city every day, they're going to be new entrants into the marketplace. And I think that we need to change our mindset and serve the people that are going to need our services and focus on the 70-some% of transactions that are still going to happen and not worry about the amount of transactions that aren't going to happen, because I think probably at this point, at least 20% of the real estate community has already surrendered, right, and left the business. I've seen a lot less casual agents in the business. And I think as the year turns and they have to pay their annual dues and whatnot, we'll probably see the agent base decline. And that should also happen there down in Florida as well, where probably it's more inundated with agents to transactions. Homes, new listings. Who wants to guess? Are they up or down from a year ago? Are we seeing more listings come on the market than we did a year ago or less?
In our market here, I looked at it yesterday, and it looked like there was more listings than we did in 2021.
Are you saying available or new to the market?
I don't know if they were new to the market, but they did a survey, and it showed that 2021, I think it was, oh gosh, I should have it pulled up, but we were up significantly this year than we were last year.
Rob,
Right.
for South Florida, the Broward market, we have I think it was 2.2 months supply right now. So we have a larger supply. We're actually getting fewer listings per day listing, but we have a larger supply at this point.
Correct. We have 3,500 currently at the end of September, opposed to 2021 being 2,300. So it's up 52% in active listings for just Broward County.
So that fits the narrative of what I'm going to say next. And this is off of the National Housing Report that RE/MAX puts out. New listings are down 11.4%. However, inventory is up over 30%. Now, you want to know where that difference is? That's the 23.5% of sales that are down, right? So if new listings are down and sales aren't occurring, then homes for sale increase, the opportunity of homes that we could take to our buyers. Days on market are at 34 days. I didn't see what it was September of 2021 in the report, and closed to ask prices down from 101 nationally to 99%. Those are some good numbers to know. So even though the market's softening, it's not like sellers are coming out in abundance saying, hey, I want to sell my place. So we need to know what the numbers are. I want to have everybody take a long-term focus, and what I'm relating this to is, if you remember the Ebenezer Scrooge story, where he looks at the past, the present, and the future, and I want to take a long-term look at where our business is going to be. Okay, and what happened in the past, okay, in real estate, that's gone. I think in 10 years, I don't think the number of homes sold is going to be significantly different. I think we might have a short-term impact, which might feel significant if you don't have your business strategy rock solid. And the reason why I want to take a look at, like, what are we doing today and in the future, is that's going to drive where we are, not the market conditions. Because if you're in this business for the long period, you're going to make adjustments, but you're going to meet your goals. And if we started out with, where do we want to be in 5 years, 10 years, and we work backwards to 3 years, 1 year, 90 days, and start to focus and plan how we're going to get to those benchmarks, I think we're going to be a lot more successful than living in the 90-day world, where we're looking at what are we going to do the next 90 days and then the next 90 days, or even just planning for the next year. Unless you only want to be in the business for another year or two, then keep doing the 1-year plan.
Well, I think the 90-day plan is what I was in my class the other day we were talking about, is to have a goal set for every 90 days, just kind of roll it over and keep repeating it. I don't, it's hard to look ahead a year, what it's going to look like from now to a year from now. But I think that if we do a short-term goal of the 90-day, and just keep turning it over and turning it over, I think that you'll see more success. But people, agents have to get back into doing, the primary work that we did in the very beginning is, you have to have goal setting. A lot of us, they get stuck in their laurels and they stop prospecting, or they let things get in the way of it. And, that's what stops us from being more productive. You just got to keep on moving forward. You got to keep doing the things that we did before that we were making money, knocking on doors, cold calling, talking to people, having conversations. So I think the 1-year plan is not a really good idea. I think the 90-day plan would work better. And that's what I was teaching in the class the other day. If you do a 90-day plan, set your goals for 90 days and repeat it over and over and over again, add to your habits, add to your inventory. I think that's the best plan.
So Ron, I want to be outrageous, and I want to say, I want to look at what my life looks like in 10 years. And I want to describe specifically, what is my business? What does my personal life look like? And probably one of the first things in 10 years for most of us, and some of us, if your business is 5 or 6 years from now, like, what's your time off going to be in 3 years, 5 years? How is your life balance going to be? Because you can't work your entire life, right? And if we could spend the time that we are working more efficiently, do you not think that would add value to, our business, the outcome that we receive to everything, right? And if the problem with the 90-day thing, Ron, and you need to have a 90-day plan, but you also need to have a 5-year, a 10-year plan on where you want to be, right? And then you need to measure how are these chunking of 90 days helping you get to that point. And I know that your plan that you do, Ron, is designed to give them measurable results in a short period of time, but we need to be able to figure out how we can stack those 90 days, right? And I remember a local broker here, I don't want to mention her name, but she told me about an agent that worked for her for 45 years and repeated the first year 45 times. And that's what I don't want us to be doing. Let me just mute everybody else. So if you want to chime back in, just unmute yourself. But the problem with continually focusing on those 90 days, if you don't stack the 90 days so that, this 90 days, the next 90 days, the next 90 days don't accelerate, is that we kind of just recirculate in that same mindset, that same expectation. Does that make sense to you, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. The thing is that this market, you don't know what it's going to throw at us from month to month. It's, every time, you wake up in the morning, you look at the news, there's something different happening, that affects our market. So to look ahead years, I mean, I guess for the younger agents.
Stop looking at the news.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to not to, but if the thing is that I don't know. I think if we start looking a year in advance, 5 years down the road, maybe the younger agents can do that, or the newer agents can do that. But guys like myself, I mean, I work on a 90-day schedule, or you know, because I don't know what this market's going to throw at us. So yesterday, Frank gave a seminar, which was very helpful about buying down interest rates. And that is a good feature that we should start talking about and educating some of our buyers out there so they can get into a house affordably. So I thought that was a great seminar yesterday, Frank. But anyway,
Thanks.
yeah, I just think that it's better. I don't know. It's just my opinion. I just think it's better not to overload the brain. So if you start thinking of a 5-year plan, I mean, it's not bad to do it, but I just think it's just an overload.
So, and Ron, I'm going to press on that just a little bit and say that, you know, the market conditions aren't going to change what Rob Lazar is going to do for a career. And I'm not going to change my lifestyle if the market, continues to go, if the market, the units continue to drop down. You know, I plan on adapting to the marketplace, and I plan on growing my business and finding a strategy where I get.
Fucking idiot. What the fuck are you doing?
Uh-oh, we're not PG anymore. So I plan on, you know, growing my business in an up or a down market. And, you know, I don't really, I mean, I prefer to have the market be a little bit robust, but I can tell you, Ron, that when the market was one of the best markets that we ever saw, did we still have agents complaining? Ron, what were the complaints? What were the complaints that we had the best market ever?
There was really none. I mean, you know, you just had to work.
I mean, come on, Ron, let's be like, I had people complaining that I can't get my offers accepted. There's 30, 40 offers on a property. When I have a listing, I have so many offers. People are complaining because they don't get it. They don't get it. I have to present 40, like even in the quote unquote, air quote, best market ever, you know, we had challenges, right? And we had people saying, if we could only have some inventory, right? I can take all my clients and sell them houses. Now, guess what? We have inventory. It's up by over 30%, you know, but now we have sentiment changed, right? And we're the bridge between sentiment and transactions. We're the bridge between sentiment and changing lives, right? Because if somebody doesn't have all the information, they're going to take the information from the mass media, right? Which is just selling the sizzle, right? The best market ever. Now it's the worst market ever. Okay, it changed, but it didn't change that much, right? Would you give me that, Ron?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of new agents working with buyers that had a tremendously difficult time putting transactions together. Now, guess what? There's inventory to sell. I want everybody to just, you know, if you're committed to this business, you know, just put down on a piece of paper, the market doesn't matter. What I do is what matters, right? I mean, in an apocalyptic situation, what are we going to go down by? A third? That means that there's still 2/3 of the transactions left. It's those who pivot and adapt that are going to control the market.
Yeah, agreed.
And there are going to be people in the down market that see their business go up. It happens all the time. I think Robert Garber, you started in a down market, right?
I did.
So by definition, you had no business and your business increased.
Yes, and it increased significantly. 2008, you know, the bust year was my biggest year in real estate ever. And it just so happened, I was looking back at some of the records from then, and I was with another company, but here I was in real estate for a year and a half, let's say, maybe 2 years with no business really. And suddenly I was in the top 50 agents for Coldwell Banker in the country. So it really, it was just a matter of, I knew I had to pay my mortgage. I have to work harder. I have to.
So I'm going to paraphrase that and say, Robert, you chose not to participate in the recession. Would that be accurate?
Correct.
And every single one of us has the option to not participate in a recession or a down market. We do, because there's still an abundance of business. You know, maybe it's an opportunity for us to keep our heads up, to keep marching forward, to keep looking at how we can serve the client better, right? And I think, you know, if you look at stories that are even outside of real estate, right? And you look at how they ultimately land as being tremendous successes, right? Look at like a Walmart, Sam Walton. You know, Sam Walton, I don't think looked to make the highest amount of money. He was like, look, I want to deliver products that change lives by having a really low margin and an efficient distribution system. Okay. And he changed the world of retailing, and Costco is another company that does the same thing. You know, up and down markets, you know, they have a strategy that they execute on all the time. And, you know, whether the market's good or bad, you know, these companies are thriving. And I'm not saying that we're a discount company, but what I'm saying is that we're finding ways to serve clients at a higher level, right? And I think now clients need us more. They need the integrity that we can provide, and we need to improve our skills, right? You know, this is not part of what I planned on talking about, but like the compound effect of just improving yourself a little bit every day is going to make you in 3 years and 10 years, you know, unstoppable, right? But if you continue to do the same thing in 2023 that you did in 2022, that you did in 2021, it's going to have us be limited. Yes, we're going to get better by doing more transactions, but we need to stretch ourselves, find ways that we can serve our buyers and sellers at a higher level with integrity, and we will thrive. And if you're planning on being in the business for 5 or 10 or more than 10 years, let's figure out what the business looks like in 5 or 10 years, and then let's work backwards. Okay. Let's choose not to participate in, you know, a market correction. Let's choose to be the first adapter that moves to help our clients be the ones that are transacting business. Because I know that, I don't know who said that people bought out, you know, out of the city and are probably going to sell. I think it was Eric's, and some clients bought and they might be looking to, you know, cut their loss because they bought at the top of the market and moved back to the city. But if that's what their passion is, that's what they love to do, they're not going to sit in that house for 10 years and wait for the market to come back. You know, they're going to come and talk to you, Eric, and you're going to give them the advice. Hey, you know what? The market's down a little bit. Projections are, it might go down a little bit more. If this isn't the right place for you, let's get you out. Let's transition to where you love to be, and let's move on. And, you know, all of our business coaches in our industry, or the majority of them, are telling us, you know, do this, do that, do the next thing, shiny object syndrome. And I think maybe the first thing that we need to do is focus on, you know, what does the business look like in 5 years? And let's define it by, is Scott Kaplan still on?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
So one of the interesting things that Scott said to me when I first met him was that I like to have my time off, my vacation. I like, you what, take 3 days off every 6 weeks, or a mini vacation?
Pretty much.
Right. And then you have, you probably plan to be off for what, 2 months during the year or more?
Yes, at least
2 months during the year. And last year, Scott was a Chairman's Club member. Next year, he's going to be a Chairman's Club or higher member. And I'm confident of that because he has a strategy. The fact that he takes time for himself and his family gives him a more empowered state when you do work. Would you agree on that, Scott?
I would. And I would say that kind of what you were talking about earlier about just going back to some simple things. There are people who still do want to buy. And we had 3 open houses in the last 3 weeks and actually picked up 4 new buyers. One of which I actually got from an agent who wasn't working hard enough for the clients. And so we've got right now a portfolio of buyers who can buy. Granted, you know, their purchase power is different, but because we've got listings on the market, we're finding homes that we can sell them. So there's opportunity, and there's people who are out there. You just have to have the open mind to help them.
You know,
Right.
to that point too, if I could just add, we looked at the property on Wednesday, 2 days ago, and I'm in the middle of 26 films that are scheduled between Wednesday and tomorrow. And we already have 5 committed offers on the property. So, I mean, buyers are out there, and regardless of what the interest rate is, you know, if they need to buy a place, they're going to buy a place. And we have to keep that positive focus.
Yeah, I mean, if you, Robert, if you are living where you don't want to live, if, you know, you want to be in a different school district for your family, if you want to have a different lifestyle, you know, whether it's 4%, 3%, or 7%, it's really not going to change. I mean, people paid ridiculous prices, right, during the pandemic. You know, we thought it was insane what they were paying, 100,000 over ask, because that was the lifestyle that they wanted. What changed so much that an interest rate is going to upset that apple cart? What upset that was that we're letting our mindset be influenced by, you know, people outside of our industry, right? People looking to sell ads on cable news or on wherever you see the pundits that are writing the demise of the real estate market, right? So there are people that are here. There are people that have been in the business for 30, 40 years that they didn't take off 3 years in 2008. Some people had their best years in the most difficult markets. They adapted, they learned how to do short sales. And I don't think by any stretch of the imagination, we're going to have to sharpen our skills on doing short sales anytime in the near future. And I think that we have so much more control over where we are and what our 2023 and 2027 looks like than we could even imagine. I'm going to just reflect back on some of my notes here. You know, and this is from the Tom Ferry podcast, where he talked about Walt Disney when he moved from you know, doing the characters and the short movies to saying, I want to have a theme park. And he said, I want a theme park where all the horses jump and there's no chip paint. And what he was saying is he wanted to increase the standard, right? And I think that what we need to do is take that same analogy and change the standard in the industry. Because if you look at the industry, what do you think the return call rate is, and the time for people to call a client back is in the industry? You know, Robert, you're in leadership. What do you think the average time for an agent to call somebody back is?
You know, there used to be a statistic that always stuck with me, that it was 3 days.
3 days. 3 days for people to call back. And I think somewhere in the range of 30 to 45% of calls are never returned, right? So what we need to do is we need to make sure all the horses jump and there's no chip paint. We need to make sure that we return the calls, that we do it in an appropriate manner. We have a system for doing that. We're servicing the clients and improving the experience, right? And if we do those things, we'll have abundance in our real estate career and by proxy in our life, right? You know, if you were to call 10 agents about a listing that they have, what do you think the answer rate would be for those 10 in South Florida, Ron? Like, are they picking up the phone, or are they not even answering their phone when you call them?
A lot of them don't pick up the phone.
So out of 10, just give me a gut. What would you say? Would it be 3 or 7 that answer?
Out of 10,
Yeah.
I would probably say, yeah, 4 or 5, maybe.
So less than half.
One in
Jay's saying 1 in 10. I would say it's probably somewhere around, you know, 3 to 4 out of 10 that answer the phone. And that is a pathetic standard, right? They don't know, they don't have you saved in their phone if you're a client or not, right? A lot of people, they just screen. The best way to have a communication is to pick up the phone and answer it. If I was looking to hire somebody to list my house and they didn't answer the phone, I might go next. How about you, Ron?
Yeah.
Robert, if you had a mailing and you called somebody, they didn't answer the phone because they're screening, what would you do?
I pass.
Look for another agent, right? And I see a lot of us, I mean, there are times that we can't answer, we're in appointments and whatnot. But there's a lot of times I see agents, and some of them are under our roof, that don't answer a number they don't recognize, right? Because we all get those spammy calls,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
But you never know when you're gonna have the golden egg in all of that garbage that we're getting.
It's funny you
So-
should say that, because yesterday, I got a call from a 7770, I think. I try to pick up my phone every time it rings, because you never know where the leads are gonna come from. But this agent called me yesterday and says, hey, I got a buyer referral for you. He's looking to buy a house in Pompano area for $800,000. Now, if I didn't pick up that phone and answer that phone call, I probably wouldn't get that referral. He'd go on to the next, because that's what happens to me. When I have to refer something out to another agent, if they don't pick up, I go to the next agent. Whoever picks up gets the lead. So yes, that's a good point that you made. Got to pick up your phone.
Well, and picking up the phone is it's an analogy for picking up the level of service that we have, right? Because, we have to value the opportunities, and even if 1 out of 10 calls is only a lead, or 1 out of 100, would you answer your phone 100 times for an $800,000 serious buyer or a $2 million seller in Mountain Lakes? Would you do that?
Of course.
So maybe it's time to revisit, how we look at, we look at the 99 calls that are annoying us, or do we look at that one golden opportunity that's going to make a big change in our next 90 days, right? It's going to be a great piece of business because we picked up the phone. We did what the others aren't doing.
It's important. I used to hate picking up long distance numbers, because I thought maybe they're just scammers or, trying to sell me stuff. But you never know. You never know who it's going to be. So you have to pick it up. You have to pick up the phone. And if it's a scammer or somebody trying to sell you a business, it's easy just to say, I'm not interested. Thanks very much for calling, and move on. But yeah, I try not to miss any opportunities I get from phone calls.
Right. And I would like everybody to, I'm going to go back to what I started with here and say, if you can say this, it's going to change the way that you behave. I am still a fanatical, raving fan of housing and believe that the quality of your life starts in your home. Can everybody accept that?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Right. I
I
am
agree.
still a fanatical, raving fan of housing, and I believe that the quality of your life starts in your home.
Rob, I agree. And I like to tell people we are in the best business there is, because every single person has to live somewhere. And wherever they live, they normally want something else at some point in their life. If you're a kid, when you're 18, you want to move out. When you move out, you get your first place, and it's your first place. And then you want to get your first house. You have kids, you might need to grow. As you get older, like you were saying before, some people want to downsize. At some point in everyone's life, they still have to live somewhere. And whether it's buying, selling, renting, commercial, we can do it. So we have the opportunity to help everybody we meet every day.
No, thanks for sharing that. And, you just reminded me, Scott, that, there was a lot of talk about, millennials want to live in their parents' basement forever and they only want to rent. Well, guess what? Millennials want to buy. Okay. They want to start families. They want to have a house of their own. I mean, home ownership is as American as the 4th of July and apple pie, right? Everybody wants to participate in the home ownership game, right?
There's some good financial programs out there too to help buyers get in.
Yeah, the how, for now, Ron, the how is secondary to the bigger picture, right? Which is, we're focused on, helping people, and then we need to educate ourselves. We need to improve ourselves on the different programs and the strategies and the mindsets to get people into what's going to make their life better. And, if we help people by being honest and improving ourselves so that we can deserve the business, that makes for a great career. It's a fulfilling career. It's a financially rewarding career. You know, when you get up at 5 in the morning, if that's your MO, you're not, oh, I got to get up and go to work, right? It's like, I got to get up and make the donuts. I hate it. Well, if you get up and say, I love what I do, right? For me, when I get up early, you know, I have some time to myself where I can think, where I can get stuff done. And then I go into the mode of helping people when the phone starts ringing. I try my best to answer and solve problems and coexist in the chaos of what happens in life. But you need to find what your passion is and how you can, utilize that to, serve more people and have fun during the process, right? I mean, Scott says the best business ever, and I couldn't agree with him more. It could be the worst business ever too. Oh, I don't have a paycheck. My deal fell apart. Like, you could think of reasons why it's the worst, but you could also know with absolute certainty, if you do the right things, that the outcomes will happen. I mean, Ron, you of all people probably know, if you have the steps and the habits and the structure, is there any question that you're not going to have the outcome?
No question at all.
Right. And did you ever think of, going and working in retail or taking a job as a server or, doing something other than real estate during your career because there was a little dip in the economy, a little recession coming down the pike?
Never. Had that.
Never.
No.
Never. But there's a lot of people that are like, oh, let me sharpen up my resume because there's a dip in the market. I take a part-time job, selling Mary Kay or whatever you're going to do. Those are not the people that are core Remax select group people. And no offense to them, but like, you have a pathway, you have resources, you have proximity to people that can show you how to get there. 100% exclamation point. No doubt. No way. Nobody's going to be, struggling to pay their mortgage if they come to their manager or they participate in all the opportunities that we have. You will live an abundant life and you will feel good, not because you have a large bank account, but you'll feel good because you have a client base of raving fans that love what you did for them, right? And as a result of that, you have a big bank account. Okay, that's the way you have to think about it. Like, if you're out there helping people, and does anybody have a client that you probably didn't get paid much, but you helped them get through a difficult transaction and you felt really good about? Does anybody have one of those that you might even want to share? Because I think this is the essence of our business.
Yeah, Rob, I have one. It wasn't a sale, it was more of a rental, but it's people that I've been working with for about 3 months. They were moving out of their house because their landlord sold it. The new people don't want anybody in there. They have pets, which, we all know it's hard to get any kind of rentals now that are quality rental, especially in Bergen County with pets. So I think we showed them probably 20, 25 houses in the last 2 months. Not a $3,000 a month rental. It's not really much income for us when we look at some of the other transactions, but just seeing the stress leave them once we had everything signed was enough for me.
And it's going to be 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3 of those people, TJ, that are going to go out of their way and tell the entire world of how you helped them achieve the impossible, which was a rental, didn't get paid much, but that meant the world to them, right?
Absolutely. They're already telling people.
Those are clients for life. They'll eventually buy from you. Stay in touch.
Absolutely.
But Ron, after that closing or after that, after they move into that rental, you're not going to buy a new car. You're not going to upgrade your house, but you know what? You feel really damn good about it. Right. And that's the thing that, keeps you going, even when you have if you contrast that to maybe a $1 million buyer where you're making a healthy commission, right? But they complain about every little thing about the transaction. And they're like, you know what? I'm really disappointed that, they took the grill from the backyard and, little stuff that doesn't mean anything, right? You may have
everybody happy.
You have a big fat commission check, right? But you leave there feeling like you got, beat up, you got a black eye, right? So,
You're gonna get that. You know, you can't make everybody happy, but you know, I would say out of all the closings that you get, maybe you have 1 out of 50 that are difficult and that are, at least for me speaking. But at the very end, you know, they change their attitude because it's closed and they're in their new house and they're happy. Now, you know, even those people that they gave you a hard time through the course of the transaction, I still stay in touch with them and they still answer the phone and they still say, "Hey, Ron, how's it going?" So, yeah, I never really discard anyone. You know, I always try to stay in touch with them. There's very few that I let go.
yep. So, does anybody know what Pearson's Law is?
What was that?
Does anybody know what Pearson's Law is?
No.
All right. This is something I think is worth understanding the principle, even if you don't remember who Mr. Pearson was. When performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported back, the rate of improvement accelerates. Okay. And this, I think, is the majority of what coaching is, right? It's measuring performance and reporting back to a coach. And that mere fact of doing that increases the rate and accelerates your improvement. Okay. Do you think, Ron, that coaching is more about them telling you secret things that you never heard of? Or do you think it's more about you getting them to have you be accountable to doing the things that you already know? Is it the first or the latter?
The latter.
Rob Garver, is it the first or the latter?
I'm sorry, I was answering an agent's text.
So is coaching more about, you know, teaching you something fancy that you never heard of, or is coaching more about, you know, having you set up the systems and execute on the things that you probably already know that you should do and holding you accountable for them?
Number 2.
Number 2, not even close, right?
No.
So I think a lot of us, you know, miss the impact and the significance of accountability. And a newsflash, you know, if we're in a in a shrinking market, right, where we're looking to be sustainable, you might not want to hire a coach today, but you might want to go to a colleague of yours and say, "Hey, let's hold each other accountable," right? Let's have twice a week, let's have a call and report back what we did.
You
It's
know,
healthy. That's a healthy thing to do for all agents.
Right? I mean, we're all in this together, and you know, the majority of the benefit of hiring a coach is them to, you know, hold us accountable for the actions that we already know that we should be doing, right? And I'm not saying that coaching is bad. I'm a fan of coaching, but I also think that we don't need to spend, you know, massive dollars to do that. We can find an accountability partner. We can, you know, meet twice in the office and get it done. Yes.
Thank you for holding me accountable with that spreadsheet. I am on top of it just because I know you have an access and you're holding me to the 400 doors. And thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, you know, one of your colleagues asked me to hold them accountable, and I was like, absolutely. You know, and you know, I am not just holding her accountable because she asked me, but I truly care about seeing that result improve and finding ways to look at it. And if there are things I see there that might be, you know, out of the normal, or maybe I don't see the progression of improvement, we're going to have a conversation about that. And, you know, maybe it's time for you to find an accountability partner, right? Who's in it with you, who you're going to hold each other accountable periodically, at least once a week, probably twice. Maybe you even do some activities every day. You text each other in the morning saying, "Hey, I'm doing my prospecting. I finished."
We do it in Florida,
Rob.
Rob. We do. Everyone has an ABE, an accountability buddy.
Rob,
Yep.
I
Yes,
just would
Pablo.
like to add, because I use accountability on many aspects of my life. And my little advice, if you have somebody hold you accountable, look
Mhm.
for a person that you look up to in
Me
that
too.
specific part of your life. Number two, assign a fine to it, because then you have a monetary fine, which is not a big deal. But what is more important is like you don't want to fail the person. Let's say could be something not even business related. If you have somebody who is really good in sports, you say, hey, I'll do this, and you don't want to fail.
Correct.
And I would recommend for everybody to have accountability in many aspects in their life, because it makes it so much easier. I have to tell you.
Yeah, I have a team where if somebody comes late to the meeting, they donate $10 to CMN. So it's it's enriching something that's good, but it also motivates people to be on time. It's not a mess. It's not changing anybody's life, but it's the concept, the principle.
Mhm.
And let me. So, who knows what a KPI is,
I do. Key performance indicator.
right? And
Miss Technicals, she knows a lot of stuff.
yeah. So what KPIs are, okay, they're the gauges that show you where your outcome's going to be. KPIs are the gauges that show you where your outcome are going to be. They're the leading indicators, right? And if you were to, my coach uses a lot of analogies for flying because he's passionate about, he has an airplane, he lives in rural Canada. And on an airplane for a non-pilot, the gauges look overwhelming to me, right? But there are certain basic gauges that we're going to tell you, when and where you're going to land. And the KPIs in real estate tell you where your business is going to land, right? Like what activities are you doing? What are the leading indicators? What are the lagging indicators? Okay. And there's differences to these two. Like leading indicators are you doing the prospecting? Are you setting the appointments? Are you making the calls to your clients? The lagging indicators are you converting your appointments? Are you effective at taking appointments to closings? Are your listings selling? Those are the lagging indicators, and we need to measure them both, right? How often will you meet and discuss the numbers as they relate to your goals, right? It seems like a lot of the experts, coaches generally meet with you once a week. A cadence of accountability is probably recommended to occur weekly, right? It's something that's in your calendar. It's something that happens, right? It's something that you're not going to miss, right? There are some things that, if you had a $1 million listing appointment, most of us wouldn't be late. Most of us wouldn't be prepared, right? If you had a call session, or if you're doing prospecting, how many of us are going to be like, I woke up with a headache. I didn't feel so good. I didn't get a good, like you can make a million excuses why not to be there, but there are some things that are non-negotiable that you're always going to be there. Maybe even you take it out of the context of business, right? If you're a big football fan and your local team is playing, you're probably going to make it to the tailgating. If your kid is graduating from high school, you're not going to miss that, right? Or maybe you are because you're working. It depends on what your priorities are, but I would recommend that you find the things where you're going to get leverage on yourself so that you accomplish those and you have a cadence of reporting and being accountable to somebody. And for our long-term goal, which I recommend you take back to your 2023 goal in your 90 days is, describe what your business looks like in 10 years. Describe what your life looks like in 10 years, right? Be specific. And I think, the things that really matter are, like Scott talked about, like I want to spend 3 months, not working. I want to take off a month in, July or whatever his priority was. I want to take mini vacations every 6 weeks. I think that gives him, that gives him energy and motivation for the time that he is working, because he knows he has all these benefits and he's blessed with an industry that gives him the ability to do that. You describe the transactions that you want to complete, and you might describe that by, hey, I want to help 50 families in the next 12 months buy or sell a house. I want to do that for, $25 million with a GCI of $700,000 and a net profit of $400,000. Right. I want to have, 50 reviews on Google or Zillow. I want to have 10% market share in the town I work, or I want to have 25% market share in the community I'm farming. These are all things that I think we need to look at where we want to be and backtrack to how we get there. Right. I don't know if this was from the Tom Ferry podcast or not. And if it was, I apologize. I was just listening to it and I found a lot of good noteworthy things. It was said that every founder of a company or a business has only two emotions: euphoria and terror, right? When something's working great, it's working fantastic. And then, when it's not, you're, oh my God, this is, I got to stop doing this. We need to balance, our emotions. We need to focus on what we know is going to get us to, the life that we want and the business that we want. And, not be discouraged by the short term, this listing appointment didn't work, this call session was bad. We need to look at the bigger picture on what takes us there. I'm going to encourage everybody to meet with your office coach or your manager, or if it's even myself, like set up an appointment, come up with your 2023 goals and put an emphasis on what are the 3 primary activities that you're going to be doing exceptionally well. They're going to be non-negotiable, and perhaps you're going to incorporate one new habit. The research on habits are, as we turn to the new year, how many people try to do a habit, which we call a resolution, and how often does that last?
I think 90%, 7 days.
Yeah, so most of them, it's more of a novelty than a lifestyle change, right? The year changes. Hey, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to go to the gym, starting January 2nd. And that normally fades off rather quickly.
Yeah, Rob, they say that statistically, you drop off of your resolutions within 3 weeks.
Yep. There's been some research that if you were to do one achievable habit, and the example I saw was, let's just say that, your doctor says you need to, get healthier. And if your habit was, to walk a half a mile every day, and you get into the habit of doing that, if that's the only goal, you could have a success rate of 85%. If you pair that with, go to the gym twice a week and walk half a mile a day, it drops to 40%. And then if you pair that with a third habit, eat salad for dinner every night, go to the gym twice a week and walk half a mile, it falls below 3%. So if you take one new habit that you're going to embrace in your business, I think you can succeed at an 85% rate, which, there's no 85% success. So if you're part of the 85%, that's 100% success for you. And that's going to be something that is automatic, that you don't even think about, and that might be the habit of, there was an agent that was rookie of the year when they joined us, and their second year, I want to say it was April, maybe May. And I sat down and spoke with the agent. I'm like, what's happening? Your business is dropping off. And the habit that changed was he got complacent and, believe it or not, just slept in later. He used to be up at 7:30 in the morning. He'd be in the office by 9. And, he's like, I'm usually getting the office by 11:30 now. And the realization of that, and that habit that had eroded, When he changed it back, he wound up improving his second year after being rookie of the year, just because it was something as simple of the habit of actually getting out of bed and coming to the office with enthusiasm. And I know you all can relate to that because we've all been there. And then once your business, and this is not a sales career, when you really look at it as a business, you start to understand leverage and delegation. Okay. And you can start to look at activities that you can delegate out. And even if you're new in the business, you know, everybody can afford to hire 10 hours a week of a VA if that's your budget, and delegate the activities that they may even be able to do better than you to get that 10 hours back for $50 to do activities that are, you know, instead of $5 an hour, they're $50 an hour or $150 an hour. That's understanding leverage and delegation. Okay. And you pull the long-term goals into your routine with certainty when you understand that. We are 2 minutes over. I'm going to just mention, you know, 4 reads for the holidays. If you're interested in, you know, sitting back, getting out of your business and having a read that will help you with your life and your business. My favorite of these is 4 Disciplines of Execution. There's another book that I've been told was great called Atomic Habits, and Measure What Matters by James Dorr is something that I want to read this holiday season. And I've been told that a book called Big Rocks: Balancing Life and Work is also an excellent read, which I might try to hit before the end of the year. So there's a couple of tips. It's your choice.
I have one that I'd like to add. It's not a book, but it's a habit that I think the agents will really benefit from. Is, you know, we ask our clients for references or recommendations after we're finished a transaction with them, and maybe they put it on Zillow, or maybe they write you a letter or a card or whatever. And I want to suggest that you keep every one of those, and every 6 months, go back through them and read them again and again, because you don't realize how much your mindset changes by what's going on in the market necessarily. And if you're not doing the kind of business that you used to do, you know, you're thinking, well, maybe I don't have it anymore, or I'm not as good as I used to be. Go back, read those recommendations, read those thank you notes. And suddenly it's unbelievable. You're going to feel like an endorphin rush, and you're going to be recharged, and you're going to be ready to go again. So just a suggestion I'm putting out there. Put together a little book. We used to call it a brag book, and go through it from time to time and read about what a great agent you really are.
And I think, Robert, that's a great way to start like your day, maybe to read 5 of those, just so that you feel good about the business and yourself. And that's a great tip. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for an hour of your time. And if you're door knocking, hopefully we'll have some great stories by Monday. And I'm going to post my notes to this onto our YouTube channel if you want to see the notes and the recording. Have a great weekend, everybody. Go ahead.
But I was just going to say, it's kind of funny. Your past, present, and future at the beginning. Today is Back to the Future Day. The movie Back to the Future.
Really?
So if you look at your Google, it's going to show Back to the Future Day. So everybody here who has a social media page, they should post something about Back to the Future and ask their clients what home do they see themselves in the future, and start an open dialogue of something fun just to get their social media talking about housing. Post a picture of a house with it, but it's just a fun thing for today to get people talking about housing in a positive manner.
Thanks for the contribution, Scott. You know, we have such an awesome team here. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend, and I learn from you every day.